Howdy again, it's OK Fixer, and we're working on the red Beetle. First thing I like to do is I like to have a list of stuff to do, and I thought about this long and hard last night, and I think it's a good idea to have direction, because if you don't have direction, then you're just hopscotching all over the place, and a lot of the times your direction will thwart other direction if the paths cross where you put something together and it needs to come back apart again, that kind of thing. So I thought about this long and hard, and the first thing I want to look at is this trans. So we're going to look at that first. We'll go into that. Next thing I'm going to want to do is pull fenders and doors. Then I'm going to want to pull bolts. I used to be able to spell. Floor pan. Then we're going to put the car in backyard. Well, why don't you work on it in your garage? Well, I've got 4 cars, and this one really needs to go in the garage. Really does. Really, it's my livelihood, and it can't disappear. So it's going to have to go in the garage. Well, why don't you pull your Volkswagen out under your carport, and then you work in the shade? Well, here's the deal: is the road's right there, and grinding and making all that noise like that. If I make it behind the fence, the noise is there, but you can't see it. And half of the battle is in a neighborhood is not being seen, making noise. So I'm going to put the car in the backyard. Then we're going to separate pans from body. Probably I'm going to pull engine, and I'm going to put trans in and see if it works. Then we can do, I don't know, body work, pans, something like that. But having a battle plan is the idea, and I thought about this exactly how I'm going to do it, and about how that neighbor's going to take it, and how my wife is going to take it. And if it's not in the driveway, she doesn't see it. If it's in the backyard, you know, she doesn't see it that much. And it's much easier. So I wanted to look at this transmission, because the transmission that I have in my car is stuck in gear. What does that mean? How does it get stuck in gear? Well, let me answer this phone. Hold on a second. How is it stuck in gear? How can it be stuck in gear? Well, it's not stuck in gear, it's in gear, okay? And they can't get it out. And what I think it is, I think it's the hockey stick is broken. Now, train. What this does is there's a piece of metal here, a rod that goes in here, and it's shaped like a hockey stick, and it selects different deals and pulls them back and forth, and it slides the gears into place and out of place. Something like that. I'm not a transmission guy, but that's how that works. Also, see how schlocky this is? Okay. I'm not a transmission mechanic, but that's wrong. So we'll have to figure that out. Might be a bushing in the nose cone here, whatever. Looks like the mount may have been changed at one time. It is still made of rubber. The front mounts have been changed before. Oh, this is Captain Obvious. We're playing Captain Obvious right now. Captain Obvious really helps you out if you play Captain Obvious. Captain Obvious says that these mounts have been changed. Okay. Captain Obvious also says that this transmission is awful clean, and that tells me something. Oh, let's find another Captain Obvious and see if that's is the case. Is it the case? Yes, we have silicone here. Yes. Captain Obvious says that this transmission's been apart before. So it's probably a nice one. Okay. Also, if you notice, this has one plug and it doesn't have two plugs like mine. So I believe this is a newer transmission. There's the number. And if I'm not mistaken, this has the higher fourth gear in it, which is nice. It's great. Or the gear that is, I don't know if it's higher gear. I don't think it's any higher range. I think what it is, it's a finer cut gear so it doesn't make so much noise. What a wonderful little box this is. How incredible. How incredible this little thing holds the starter. Look at the craftsmanship of it. Isn't it just amazing? I wouldn't be able to come up with this in a million years. Anyways, okay, we're going to look at another Captain Obvious, and we're going to drain the oil out of it. Now, if it's been rebuilt before, it'll have nice, clean, what's this X on here? What's that all about? I don't know. If it's been rebuilt, it'll have nice, clean oil in it without any chunks. If it hasn't been, it'll be dark, full of metal. I don't know. Always use a clean drain pan under a transmission, because if you pull the oil out of it and it's nice and clean, you can dump it back in. If you want to search around for stuff, then you're not looking at all gravel that came out of the I don't know, the tractor or whatever. So let's pull that plug on the bottom. This is the fill plug, the drain plug's on the bottom. We'll have a look at the oil in it. Well, it's full of water. So it's been outside for a long time, and they probably power washed it. That's probably why it's full of water. And maybe they drained it, maybe they didn't. I don't know. Yeah, that's scary right there. Okay, Captain Obvious. I'm going to put some 90 weight in it and see what happens. Put it in the car. It won't take anything. Put it in the car or take it back out, provided that something's wrong with it. But there are some pieces here and chunks on the magnetic drain plug. But that's to be expected, a whole bunch of material like that after, 100,000 miles or something. But having water in it, I don't know if they've drained it out first. Probably what happened is they drained it, then they pulled it, and then they power washed it. That's what I'm thinking. And then they got water in it when they power washed it. So, yeah. Well, we're going to clean it up and put some 90 weight in it, set it aside, and we'll have a look at the other transmission when we get out. We'll have a look at that hockey stick and the other one in the other transmission also, because it's probably broken. Right there. What this will allow me to do, and this is how I've got this figured, because the passenger side channel there is ate up really bad, if I lift it in the front and the back, the body's going to fold, kind of. But if I take a piece of pipe and jam up underneath there and bring it all the way back to here, to where the seat belt is, and I'll run a piece of plate down with a hole and I'll bolt the seat belt in it, and then I'll put a cross member in it. So I've got this as far forward, it can't go back because it's bolted here, and I can just lift from this lip right here. You know, should be able to, shouldn't be a problem. And I could even cut the pipe so it matches that angle, so it sits up on there right, and then I can, and it won't go forward or back anymore. I can run probably either some pipe or some landscape timber, and on the pipe that's going like this, I know, weld a pipe here, weld a pipe there. Then I don't have to weld anything. Yeah, I don't have to uncut anything. And it picks the body up evenly. And I can put a landscape timber in, you know, right at this edge and then right at this edge, and pick the whole thing up kind of from the doors. It should be okay. And I'll like weld a little slot or a little piece of metal on each pipe so the timber doesn't move back and forth, and it should be okay. And that way it won't open and close the door gap because the sill's rotted on the other side, and we'll still have the same gap. That way I can kind of park it down, lower it down, and I can work on it, and nothing will be in the way. I can easily work on the metal and stuff. That's my thought anyways. Okay, let's get the other door off. That's the tool right there, I'm telling you. All I did is take an old air chisel punch, and I cut the end of it down so it's flat. I welded an old 5/16 socket on it and a piece of bar so I could use it as a lever. I put myself a big 5/16 bit from a, you know, whack driver. That's the tool right there. Okay, both doors are off. Seats have to come out too, and the fenders. So we'll work on that next. Well, just as a respite from working on the Volkswagen, I'm working on this. It's getting hub bearings. If you haven't seen one of these, it's called a hub shark. It's made by Ken Tool. It's just a series of discs and such like that you can build up, and you can put a disc behind the bearing after you take your circlips off and pull it out, and it's got a deal to snatch the hub off, and then it comes with a puller to take the race off the hub. Anyways, yeah, it's fun. I don't have a very powerful gun, so I'm having to do it with the old-fashioned way. I'm going to have to end it. I've got my hub bearings. I've got my hub bearings in the freezer also, and what that will do is it'll shrink them a little bit, contract them a little bit, and this is ambient 80-degree temperature, so they'll slide in a little easier. Okay, time to go back and end it. This is right smack dab in the middle of the battle for Stalingrad. You're not seeing any progress, and all you're doing is seeing more and more problems and twisted bolts and rust and that sort of thing. It's the bleakest times for a person who's working on one of these cars. So it's not a pleasant time, but you can know in advance that you are making progress if you watch other videos and you've done this before. So I have the seats out. This seat here was decidedly more easy to get out than the other seat. I forgot about the seat track, and it has a little tab here, so I fought with it for a little while until I said, oh, it's got a tab, you got to push it down, then the whole thing comes up, comes forward. The rig I'm kind of making here is I took my seat belts out and I cut myself a couple pieces of steel. Well, actually, I didn't cut anything. I just found a couple pieces of scrap, bored a hole in it, got a bolt and a washer, and did the same thing on this side. They don't need to be even or fancy or whatever. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Okay, then I'm going to take a piece of pipe, and I'm going to take, because that's what I have. I've got some pipe. I don't have any square material. I've got what I got. I'm not going to buy anything. So I'm going to cut myself a piece of pipe that's going to go from here all the way to there. Now you can see how this steps up. So I'm going to cut my pipe in such a fashion where one edge of the pipe is here, and then it's got a little lip on the pipe that holds right there. And right in that corner, and I'm going to come back here, and it can overshoot this just a little bit. If it wants to, it's not a problem. I can pull it in and as tight as I can, and I will tack that with my little wire feed welder. Well, you're going to burn up this. No, I'll put a towel down that's wet, and it won't get burnt. I'm just tacking it anyways. I'm going to do that to the same side, and then I'm going to pull them off, pull these bolts off, and I'll put some big heavy-duty penetrating welds in there with the arc welder. So there'll be one here and one there, and then I'll build a pipe that goes across and connects them two. On each length of pipe that's going this way, I'll put two little tabs. They don't need to be very big, just so I can take a landscape timber and shove through, and a landscape timber will fit right through here and then right through here, and that way the landscape timber won't roll back or forth. It's got a little tab or a little piece of metal or something. It just doesn't have to be anything special, just a couple old junk pieces of metal, whatever you got. And it'll hold the landscape timber, so both edges of the timber will stick out here, and then I'll put my pump carts on them and jack it up, and I should have the body off using two pump carts, and in the backyard we'll set them on plywood so they don't sink into the ground too much, but it's been dry, so shouldn't be a problem. That's the plan anyways. So you have to disconnect all your stuff. Your steering coupler has to come undone. Wires to the engine has to come undone. Your heater mounts have to come on, or your heater pipe underneath there has to come undone. I think that's it. And then the body will lift off. Then we'll have two pieces. Kind of got in a situation today where I promised my wife something, and I can't work on this any farther, so it was abrupt and to us both, so sometimes invitations work that way, but I'll come back just as soon as I can, and we'll get working on this again, and with the miracle of the camera, it will just be a second. Are you excited? I am. So what I have a little tab with the seatbelt bolt, okay, on both sides, and then I have a spar in between, and I just cut it whatever and kind of rounded it out a little bit and jammed it up there, and what it does is it jams these things against the wall, and they don't go any farther up. You know, it'll only go so far because it's that wall's there. So if I I'll have to put a rod under here, but if I put a landscape timber under here and run it across there, I'll take a shift out. But I should be able to get a couple of pump carts on there and pump it up where it'll lift the body off without having to use this section here as a support. It'll probably hold it. It's still pretty strong, but yeah, I don't know. I sure wouldn't want to trust that. So we're going to do it this way. Alright, let's get her out in the backyard. Okay, here's the rig I got. I got a landscape timber going through there, and of course I've got it so that when I get it jacked up, I've got a clear path that I can push the body, push the chassis free of the body, and you want to make sure you got a free path there. I got my wheels locked on my cart, and some blocks underneath it. And I got the same thing going on over here. It ought to work. So let me crank it up and see what happens. I might be able to come in a little bit on this one. I'll probably come in a little bit. That way it'll center in the car. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I'll have to come in on this one just a little. If I can come in 4 inches, it'll help center the car. So I'll do that, tap that whole mess in. So we'll do that before we start jacking things up. Our wiring harness is disconnected. That's the only thing you have to disconnect. There is a wire that goes down to the starter. I did not disconnect, and I did not disconnect my metal tubes going to the body, but they're junk and they're probably just going to rip off anyways because they're all cooked. You want to make sure you get all your body bolts out. I got 3 that did not come out, but they just spun right off. So the metal on the heater channel is not even connected to them. So got all my body bolts out, including those and those. So let me get this knocked in just a little bit, and we will start jacking this up and see what we get. Okay, you're going to want to make sure your brake lines to your reservoir are disconnected. Your speedometer cable is disconnected. I can't talk. And your steering box is disconnected. And I forego the bending pipe that didn't work very well. I didn't think for some timber. It was intended for originally, but I couldn't. I ended up having to kind of pull it up and stick it underneath there best I could to clear the tunnel. So I'll have to figure something out when I go to put it back together, because I won't be able to lay it all the way down. Let's see how even we get. Sounds like somebody needs some grease. Let's check out this wiring here. Oh, it looks like it's disconnected itself already. And so have the heater pipes. There's the wire. I don't think you can see it from here, but it has disconnected itself, which is fine. And let's see here. Let's see how stable we are. Yeah, that's not bad. Okay, let's take it up a little more. And a little more here. Yeah. A little more here. Oops, I lost my pumpability. I'll have to figure that out. Oh, I see what I've got. I see what I've done now. This has pumped itself up. I only hit this with a hammer a couple of times and put that in there. That's better. There you go. Well, let's see if that'll clear now. Oops. Hanging up a little bit. Let's see here. Almost. Just need a little bit more. Just a couple more pumps and should be right through. Okay. Give her a couple more on the other side. And what we can do is we can build 2-foot heater channels here, see? And then the body can be this high. That'd be pretty crazy, right? Alright, let's see if she'll come. Let's see if she'll clear. Oh. Not yet, I don't think. Oh. You're gonna have to clear that beam a little bit, so let's, a couple more times. Yeah. There you go. Now we'll roll her forward. There she is. There you go. Now let's set this down a little bit. Okay. Well, that worked out pretty well. You know what would be better is probably if I put a loop on the top of this so I could slide a timber through. That way it'd clear the tunnel. Probably be better that way. I think I'll weld a loop in there. That way this timber here can be on top. That'd be a good idea. I love these pump carts. They work so well for everything. So many things. We're just going to set it right down. And we'll set this one right down. And we didn't buckle the body. That's good. It's good. Got it jacked right up and we didn't buckle the body at all. Fabulous. And we can even work on the, while it's up like this, we could support it too somehow, some other way. It really gives you an idea about that heater channel. You know, she's cooked pretty good. So we'll have to take care of that. I've got them coming. And I got floor pans coming. 2 floor pans and heater channel. I cannot believe that they sell 22 gauge floor pans. 22. I didn't buy them. I bought 18 gauge floor pans. Those are the heavy duty ones. But 22 gauge, boy, that'd be thin. So you can see it's pretty cooked on this side. And gee, you know what? I'm doing floor pans. Hell, I might as well do them all. You know, why not? I cut the speedometer cable because it was junk. The speedometer cable was broken, so it didn't matter. And why it's stuck in gear is there's a little deal that goes through here with it looks like a hockey stick in it, and it pulls and pushes on the little shafts that slide the gears in and out. And I think it's broken, probably. That's why it's in. Another thing I was noticing about this engine here, as I got a little closer to it, is it still has the Bowden cable that's attached to the thermostat. It's attached to this flap, so when it opens and closes, it opens and closes. It opens and closes the flap on the air cleaner. Kind of neat for preheat. Well, there it is, guys. There she is. Separation. We have separation. So, again, this point in the process is the most difficult, right where I'm sitting right now, because you have been shot out into space and you don't know if you're going to come back. So yeah, you're as far away from the sun as you can be right now, and we have to gradually work our way back home. But we will. We've got a lot of good solid parts and a lot of good solid leads. At least the stuff is here, you know where it goes. This engine's going to have to really be gone through. It's puking oil really bad because the crank walks. Crank walks because it's either the bearings walking in the case, or I'm hoping the flange side of the thrust bearing is cut real deep, and that's where all the play is. But probably not. It's probably in the case, and it'll probably have to be line board. I shouldn't say stuff like that because it might make it happen. Anyways, oh, what do we got here? We got got a little knob. That knob doesn't go to that car. You know, there is parts in this car for an older Volkswagen too. I was noticing. There was that knob, and what else was there? Oh, small lug nuts for a wide 5 car. Anyways, this is where I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to get this on the net, and I hope you enjoyed my progress, or my regress as it were. Much to do now, much to do. Alright, y'all take care. Have a nice day. See you later. Bye.